My name is Lady Hazelthorn, and today, I open a chapter that is very close to my heart, a chapter about a man the world celebrates as an icon, but whom I have known in ways very few ever do, a man named Cristiano Ronaldo, or as many lovingly call him, Ronaldo. When people hear his name, they think of the roaring stadiums, the glittering trophies, the golden boots, the unbelievable goals, and the fire that lives in his eyes. But today, I want to take you somewhere deeper, beyond the noise, beyond the spotlight, beyond the perfection the world sees. I want to take you into the quiet corners of his life, into the moments when he was not a superstar, but a fragile child with dreams too big for the small island he was born on. I want to take you into the heart of a boy who once stood barefoot on cracked roads, a boy who kicked old tin cans when he didn't have a proper football, a boy whose laughter echoed across the hills of Madeira, but whose tears remained hidden inside the silence of long nights. I want to take you into the life of a young teenager, who left his family, his island, and everything he loved, at just 12 years old, carrying nothing but a small bag, a broken heart, and a dream that most adults would be too afraid to chase. I want to take you inside his fears, his loneliness, his pain, his courage, his transformation, his evolution, because behind every legend, there is a human story. And behind Ronaldo's story, there is a fire that no darkness could ever extinguish. Let me take you back to where it all began. There is an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, an island surrounded by towering cliffs, wild winds, crashing waves, and a horizon that feels endless. This island is Madeira, a place where life is simple. Houses cling to mountainsides like white birds resting on cliffs, streets are narrow, warm, familiar, people live closely, laugh loudly, and dream quietly. And on February 5, 1985, in a small hospital on this remote island, a child was born into a family that had little money, but an ocean of love, a child who cried loudly, who kicked with surprising strength, as if destiny already whispered something to him: you are meant for more. Before the world called him Ronaldo, he was just Cristiano, the youngest in the family, the child everyone protected, the boy who ran faster than the winds of Madeira. His father worked hard, his mother worked harder, and life taught him early that nothing comes without struggle. He lived in a humble home, where meals were simple, where clothes were shared, where nights were sometimes cold, but where dreams were warm. And in that home, Cristiano found his obsession: football. Not just a sport, not just a game, but an escape, a purpose, a burning obsession that shaped every breath he took. When I first met him years later, long after he had conquered the world, long after his name became a storm that shook stadiums, I asked him, Cristiano, when did you know you were special? He didn't talk about trophies, he didn't talk about fame, he didn't talk about money, he simply said, when I was a child. I felt something inside me, a voice that said, you are not meant to stop here. That voice guided him through darkness, through failures, through heartbreaks, through nights when he cried alone, and through days when the world doubted him, because legends are not born in comfort, they are born in storms. And Ronaldo, he walked through many storms. This story that I am about to share with you is not just the story of a football player, it is the story of a warrior, a fighter, a believer, a dreamer, a boy who refused to surrender to fate. This story is not just about goals, or victories, or records, it is about courage, sacrifice, loneliness, pain, faith, discipline, and the extraordinary power of human determination. This is the story of a boy who carried his family's hopes on his small shoulders. This is the story of a teenager who cried into a pillow because he missed home. This is the story of a young man who fought a life-threatening condition with the heart of a warrior. This is the story of a champion who turned criticism into fuel. This is the story of an icon who built himself, not from talent alone, but from relentless effort. And yes, this is the story of a friend, a man who once told me, Hazel, I was not born the best, I worked to become the best. So sit with me, walk with me, travel with me through every chapter of his life. From the narrow streets of Madeira, to the towering stadiums of the world, from poverty to greatness, from a fragile boy to an unbreakable legend. Today, I open the book of Cristiano Ronaldo, and I invite you to witness every moment that shaped him, every tear, every sacrifice, every victory, every heartbeat. Because this is not just a biography, this is a journey of fire, this is the making of a legend, this is the rise of Ronaldo. The Island Boy, Birth, Family, Early Home Life, by Lady Hazelthorn. to understand the legend Ronaldo became, we must first return to the island where he took his very first breath, the island that shaped him, the island that whispered dreams into the heart of a small boy, long before he understood what those dreams meant. Madeira, a place that feels carved by the hands of nature itself. High mountains rise like guardians, ocean waves crash with the force of ancient stories, and the wind carries a kind of raw, untamed music that only those born on that island truly understand. In a small hospital in Funchal, on February 5, 1985, as the Atlantic wind howled outside, a child arrived, a child who would change the fate of football forever, but no one knew it then, not his mother, not his father, not even the island that held him. He was simply Cristiano, the youngest in the Avero family. Cristiano was born into a life that taught him humility, before it taught him hope. His mother, Maria Dolores, was a woman of quiet strength. Her hands were rough from work, but her heart was soft with love. She cooked in other people's homes, scrubbed floors, cleaned rooms, and worked long, punishing hours, to feed 4 growing children. His father, José Dinis Avero, was a gentle soul, a kind man with tired eyes, and dreams he never got the chance to chase. He worked as a gardener and part-time kit man at a local football club. Life was heavy on him, but he carried it with a shy smile. Together, they raised their family, in a small house, on a small street, in a world that rarely looked toward Madeira. There were days when the cupboards were almost empty, days when bills arrived like storms, days when survival itself felt like a victory. But inside that home, there was love, there was laughter. There was a belief, unspoken, but real, that their children could rise beyond the walls of poverty, and among those children was a boy with a fire in his eyes. Even before he knew what fire was, as a toddler, Cristiano was different, restless, energetic, wildly curious. He would run around the house as if the floor were a football field. He kicked anything he could find, a bottle cap, a crushed can, a ball of paper. His mother often laughed and said, "This boy has too much energy for one home." Neighbors would watch him race along the streets of Madeira, barefoot, fast, untamed, and whisper, "That little one. He's not ordinary." Even at an early age, Cristiano had something unusual in his spirit, an urgency, a hunger, a spark that made him stand out. He didn't just want to play, he needed to play. Football wasn't an activity. It was his heartbeat, but his childhood was not made of only dreams and sunshine. There were shadows too, shadows made by poverty, by stress, by the silent battles his parents fought behind closed doors. His father struggled with alcohol, not out of weakness, but out of exhaustion, out of loneliness, out of the weight of carrying a family he deeply loved, but could not fully provide for. Cristiano watched him with innocent eyes, sometimes proud, sometimes confused, sometimes hurt, but even then, he loved his father fiercely, because the heart of a child understands love long before it understands struggle. Cristiano's siblings, Hugo, Elma, and Katia, played a huge role in shaping who he became. His older brother Hugo felt protective of him. He often walked him to school, watched him play, and defended him against bullies. His sisters, Elma and Katia, spoiled him with affection, held him when he cried, and encouraged him when he doubted himself. The Avero house was small, but its heart was big. Laughter echoed through thin walls, arguments exploded and faded, dreams were whispered into pillows at night. Life was simple, but never easy. Around the age of 6, Cristiano began showing signs that football was not just his hobby, it was his destiny. He would sneak out of the house to join street games with older boys. He would come home covered in mud, sweat dripping from his face, his knees bruised, but his eyes glowing with joy. He wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the tallest, but he was the fastest, and the most determined. One evening, his mother looked at him, this skinny boy with messy hair and dreams too large, and said, "Cristiano, one day, people will know your name." He giggled, not realizing she spoke a truth that would shake the world. By the age of 7, Cristiano joined his first official team, Andorinha. His father worked there as a kit man, arranging jerseys, cleaning boots, setting up equipment. It was the first time Cristiano felt as if the football field was not just a place, but a home. Even coaches noticed something about him, a fire, a focus, a refusal to accept defeat. Whenever his team lost, he would cry, not out of frustration, but because losing felt unnatural to him. He would practice alone after training, shooting into old nets, dribbling past invisible defenders, promising himself, "Someday, I will be the best." These weren't just childish words, they were seeds being planted deep into the soil of his soul, and from those seeds, a legend would grow. In those early years, Cristiano didn't have fancy shoes, he didn't have expensive sports gear, he didn't have a privileged life, but he had three things that made him unstoppable: speed, ambition, and a hunger the world could not measure. That hunger, born in poverty, shaped by dreams, fueled by challenges, would carry him from the narrow streets of Madeira to the grandest stadiums in the world. But that part of the story comes later. Because right now, we stand at the beginning of everything, the first breaths, the first steps, the first sparks of greatness. This was the childhood of the boy who would one day become Cristiano Ronaldo, a child with a storm inside, early personality, inner spirit, narrated by Lady Hazelthorn. To understand Cristiano Ronaldo's greatness, you must first understand the storm that lived inside him. A storm that began when he was just a child, a storm that shaped every step he would take on his long, relentless journey toward destiny. Some children grow gently, some grow quietly. Cristiano, he grew like a flame that refused to be controlled, from the moment he learned to walk. He moved with a speed and restlessness that no one around him had ever seen. He could never sit still, not at home, not in school, not even for a few minutes. His mother often said, "Cristiano doesn't walk, he flies." And she was right. He had an energy so intense, so overpowering, that even as a child, he felt too big for the world around him. There was something inside him, a force, a fire, a hunger, a voice that kept whispering, "There is more, you can be more." Cristiano wasn't like other boys. He didn't like wasting time. He didn't like losing. He didn't like being told no. If a game ended, he wanted another. If training ended, he wanted extra. If he failed at something, he would attempt it again, and again, and again, until he broke through it. He had no patience for defeat. One of his early coaches at Andorinha once said, Cristiano trained as if he could feel someone out there was trying to take his dream away. Even as a child, he acted like he was running a race against time itself. That urgency would become one of the defining powers of his life. But with great fire comes great emotion. Cristiano was sensitive, deeply sensitive. He felt everything, too deeply, too honestly. If someone praised him, his heart shined. If someone criticized him, his eyes filled with tears. If he missed a goal, he cried. If his team lost, he cried harder. If anyone teased him, he felt it like a wound. People didn't understand him. They saw only the tears, not the reason behind them. But his mother understood. She once said, "Cristiano is emotional because he cares too much. That is his gift. And his curse." His emotions were not weakness, they were fuel. Every tear made him stronger, every criticism made him sharper, every failure built a deeper fire in him. Behind those tears was a warrior in the making. Cristiano was bold too, extremely bold. He spoke his mind. He stood his ground. He never backed down from a challenge. If older kids refused to let him play, he challenged them. If someone pushed him, he pushed back. If someone said he was too small, he trained until he was too fast to catch. He didn't want to be better than other boys his age. He wanted to be better than everyone, not just on his street, not just in his town, not just on his island. He wanted to be the best in the world. But here's the beautiful part. This desire didn't come from arrogance. It came from belief, a deep, unshakable belief in himself. A belief that stayed with him when no one else believed, a belief that would one day turn a skinny boy into a global icon. At home, his family often laughed at his seriousness. When he played small matches with his siblings, he acted as if he was in a World Cup final. He rarely smiled while playing. He was too focused, too driven. His brother Hugo once said, Cristiano didn't just want to win, he needed to win. Winning for him wasn't a moment, it was a lifestyle. He didn't chase trophies, he chased perfection. He wanted to become the sharpest, strongest, fastest version of himself. And every day, he pushed his limits a little further. But there was another side of Cristiano that few people saw, a softer side, a side hidden behind the fire. He was incredibly loyal. If he loved someone, he loved them fiercely. His friendships were strong, his connections were deep. He cared for the people around him, with a heart bigger than anyone realized. Even as a boy, he would share his small snacks With teammates who had none, he would give his jacket to a friend. Shivering in the cold, he would defend kids who were bullied or teased. His fire was not just for himself, it was for others too. This compassion, this quiet kindness, would later become a defining part of the man he grew into. Cristiano also had something most children don't develop until much later in life: self-belief. Not arrogance, not pride, just belief, pure, powerful, innocent belief in what he could become. When someone told him, "You're too skinny," he trained harder. When they said, "You're too emotional," he became mentally stronger. When they laughed, "You'll never play outside Madeira," he whispered to himself, "Watch me." And that belief became his armor. It protected him when life tested him, it lifted him when challenges crushed him, it kept him moving when the world told him to stop. That belief made him dangerous, that belief made him unstoppable. When I once asked him, many years later, "Cristiano, where did this fire come from?" he looked at me, smiled softly, and said, "Hazel, I was born with something inside me that refused to live an ordinary life. And now that I have walked you through the mind and heart of the young Ronaldo, we are ready to step into the next chapter, the years when this fire met the streets of Madeira and began shaping the legend he would become." When I think of greatness, I often picture shining arenas, crowds roaring, victory banners lifting into the sky like wings. But Ronaldo's greatness did not begin in a stadium. It began on the rough, uneven streets of Madeira, streets that shaped him, tested him, and prepared him for a destiny far bigger than the island he called home. Tonight, come with me, let us walk through those streets together. The island that raised him. Madeira was beautiful, a place where the mountains rise like ancient guardians, where the Atlantic Ocean crashes against the cliffs, as if it, too, is fighting for survival. But beneath that beauty, life was not easy. Families lived simply. Children shared shoes, clothes, dreams, and the little boy named Cristiano grew up in a home where hope was plenty, but money was not. Yet, he never complained. He had something far more powerful than comfort. He had raw hunger, a hunger not for food, but for a future beyond anything he could see. A child who could not stop running. Even as a small boy, Cristiano could not walk. He ran everywhere, to the store, to the sea, to school, to the football field made of dust and gravel, and every time his small feet hit the ground, he ran with a purpose that even he could not understand yet. He was not running from something, he was running towards something. Something only his heart could see. His mother would shout from their doorway, "Cristiano, slow down, boy." But he never did, because he felt something inside, a voice whispering, "You were born to move, you were born to rise." Football, the only language he needed. Madeira was filled with the noise of daily struggles, but Cristiano found his escape in the sound of a football hitting stone, the bounce echoing through the narrow streets. He didn't need expensive boots, he didn't need a real field, he didn't need coaching or equipment. All he needed was a ball, any ball, a plastic soda bottle, a crumpled paper wrapped with tape, a used football left behind by older boys. He played with anything, and every boy in Madeira knew, if Cristiano joined the game would come alive. He wasn't just fast, he was lightning. He wasn't just skillful, he was unpredictable, wild, fearless. There were days the older boys grew angry, because this skinny, tiny, sharp-eyed child was embarrassing them without even trying. But Ronaldo was not showing off, he was simply being himself, a child whose feet knew the language of football, long before his words knew the language of the world. The first taste of competition, in the dusty street tournaments of Madeira. Nothing was organized, but everything mattered. There were no referees, no coaches, no awards, only pride, only survival, only passion. Cristiano fought for every point, as if he were already playing in a World Cup final. Sometimes he would fall, scraping his knees on the sharp stones, but he would get up immediately, eyes burning, teeth clenched, as if pain was nothing more than a distraction. He played with a fury that frightened the boys around him, not because he was angry, but because he wanted to win, more than anyone they had ever seen. And slowly, the island began to whisper his name. "Did you see that little kid? He's unbelievable. He plays like he's older than all of us." He didn't know it yet, but Madeira was raising a legend. The streets as his first teacher. People often ask, where did Ronaldo learn his style? Who taught him those impossible tricks? What made him so different? The answer is simple. the streets taught him everything. He learned speed, because the ground beneath him was uneven. He learned balance, because the ball bounced unpredictably. He learned creativity, because no one followed rules. He learned strength, because he played against boys older, taller, stronger. He learned courage, because the streets do not forgive weakness. And he learned heart, because every game felt like survival. The streets were harsh, merciless, unforgiving, but they shaped him into a warrior. Long before the world ever saw him, a boy lost in his dream, there were moments when Cristiano would stand alone, at the edge of the sea, the wind brushing against his face, the waves crashing as if calling his name, and he would close his eyes and imagine something greater, a stadium full of lights, thousands chanting, a world watching. He did not know how it would happen. He did not know when it would happen. He only knew one thing: it had to happen. Even as a child, he believed he was chosen for something. Not because someone told him, not because he had proof, but because the dream inside him was louder than the whole world around him, the spark that could not be ignored. By the time Ronaldo turned 9, Madeira was no longer whispering, it was shouting. Local coaches had seen him, street players respected him, older boys feared him. He wasn't just the best child on the block, he was the best young player the island had ever seen. People began to say, "This boy is different. This boy is not normal. This boy is going somewhere." And Ronaldo, even though he remained humble, felt something shift inside. He didn't want to be good. He didn't want to be great. He wanted to be the best. The streets of Madeira were no longer enough for him. His dream needed bigger ground, and soon, the world would come calling. There comes a moment in every great story, when destiny stops whispering, and begins to knock. For young Cristiano, that moment arrived when he was just a boy, still chasing a dream that felt too large for the island he lived on, a dream that would soon lead him to the first place that truly understood his fire, to the club that saw in him what the world would one day celebrate, the day everything changed. Cristiano was playing barefoot in a street tournament, the kind where boys scream, grit their teeth, and play like everything they have depends on a single goal. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the cracked pavement, where children of Madeira turned the streets into their stadium. He didn't know it yet, but someone was watching him, and not just anyone, a youth scout from one of Madeira's growing clubs, Club Football Andorinha. The scout watched with a careful eye, noticing the speed, the sharp turns, the impossible agility, the way Cristiano controlled the ball, as if it were an extension of his heart. The boy didn't play like the others. He danced, he fought, he believed, and by nightfall, the scout approached the Ronaldo family with a simple message. "Your son. He has something extraordinary, let him train with us." For Maria Dolores, Ronaldo's mother, the words were like light breaking through dark clouds. For his father, José de Severo, a quiet man who worked at the club as a kit man, it meant something even deeper: pride, hope, a chance for his boy to step beyond the limits of their small world, Andorinha, the first arena of dreams. And so Cristiano joined Andorinha, his first football club. He was only 7 years old, but what he lacked in size, he compensated with a fire that startled even the coaches. The fields were small, the uniforms old, the facilities humble, but for Ronaldo, it was heaven. He trained with boys older than him, stronger than him, taller than him, but age never intimidated him. He ran faster, he fought harder, he pushed himself until he could barely breathe. The coaches noticed something rare: a boy who hated losing more than he loved winning. If he missed a shot, he didn't shrug it off. He cried, he shouted, he vowed to never repeat the mistake. Even at 7, he carried the spirit of a champion. The father who believed in him, his father, José, cleaned the equipment, washed the jerseys, and quietly watched his son train. He didn't speak much, but whenever Cristiano scored, a small smile would bloom on his face, the kind of smile that said, "My boy is meant for something great." Sometimes José would stay late, cleaning muddy boots, while Cristiano practiced alone in the dark, shooting the ball against the wall, until his legs trembled. Those were silent, sacred moments, between a father and a son, who shared the same dream, even if only one of them could chase it, a hunger the coaches had never seen. Cristiano wasn't just talented, he was obsessed. He never wanted to go home, he begged for longer training sessions, he asked for extra drills, extra runs, extra challenges. His coach once said, "This boy, if you tell him to run until sunrise, he will run. and he will still ask if he can run more. Children his age played for fun. Cristiano played for destiny, the island's best-kept secret. By the time he was 9, Andorinha could no longer contain him. He was scoring more goals than the team could record. He was outrunning everyone, outplaying everyone, outworking everyone. People from neighboring towns came to watch him, not because he was famous, but because they'd heard rumors of a boy who played like a storm, a boy who moved like lightning, a boy whose ambition wrapped around him like armor. Madeira was realizing that this child was not ordinary, and soon, other clubs began whispering his name. The leap to Nacional, Cristiano's talent was impossible to hide. A larger club on the island, Nacional, approached the Ronaldo family. They offered him better training, stronger competition, more advanced coaching. For a boy with a burning dream, this was the next step toward the world he imagined. But there was a problem. The Ronaldo family owed a small debt to Nacional, a debt from hard times, when money was scarce and hope even scarcer. Nacional offered a solution: Cristiano can join us, and the debt will be forgiven. It was a moment of relief, a moment when fate opened a door that poverty had tried to close, and so Cristiano made the leap, from Andorinha to Nacional, a step closer to greatness, a step further from the boy he had been, the higher level, and the first real pressure. At Nacional, Cristiano faced tougher opponents, bigger boys, stronger boys, more disciplined training. He was no longer the obvious star. He had to earn it, and he did. Every day he trained with a fury that startled coaches and teammates alike. He refused breaks, he refused excuses, he refused limitations. This was the period when Ronaldo began to transform, from a talented child into a relentless competitor. He grew sharper, faster, tougher. He pushed himself beyond what was required. Because deep inside, he believed he was preparing for something enormous, something life-changing, something the world had never seen, the championship that changed everything. With Ronaldo, Nacional climbed to the top of Madeira's youth competitions. They won matches no one believed they could win. They tore through tournaments like a rising storm, and when the season ended, Nacional became the champions of Madeira. Not because they were the strongest team, but because they had Cristiano, a child who played with the heart of a lion and the appetite of a warrior. But that victory did more than earn them a trophy. It put Ronaldo on a map that stretched far beyond Madeira, all the way to mainland Portugal, all the way to a club that would change his destiny forever, Sporting Lisbon. But that is a story for another chapter. Every great journey must eventually leave the safety of home. For Cristiano, Madeira was comfort, warmth, family, a world where his mother's voice could reach him, and his father's presence guided him. But destiny does not grow in comfort, it grows in the unknown, and that unknown was waiting for him in mainland Portugal, inside the gates of a club that had created legends before him, Sporting Clube de Portugal. The invitation that changed everything. After Nacional's championship victory, a scout from Sporting Lisbon asked to see the boy who was making the island tremble with his talent. At first, Cristiano seemed too young, too small, just another child with big dreams. But when he touched the ball, the scout's doubt evaporated. The way he dribbled, the way he exploded past defenders, the way he controlled the ball, as if gravity favored him alone. It wasn't normal, it wasn't teachable. It was destiny showing itself. The scout sent a message back to Lisbon: "We have found someone special, bring the boy, test him." And so began the journey that would separate Cristiano from the life he knew, leaving home, the first true pain. He was only 12 years old when he boarded the plane to Lisbon. His mother cried silently, holding him tightly, as if trying to seal every memory of him into her heart. His father stood behind her, proud, but quiet, aware that his son was stepping into a world that he himself could never reach. And Cristiano tried to be brave. He told his mother, "Don't worry. I will make you proud." But inside, the child in him was scared. Madeira was the only world he knew. Lisbon was bigger, louder, colder. Yet he walked onto the plane, because he believed in one truth: dreams are worth the fear they demand. The trial that shocked the coaches. When Cristiano arrived at Sporting Lisbon, there were dozens of boys, waiting for the same opportunity. Tall boys, strong boys, disciplined boys, boys who came from bigger cities, better academies, wealthier families. He looked too thin, too fragile, too young. But when the trial began, the field transformed. Cristiano ran like a storm released, a flash of speed the coaches could barely track. He dribbled through defenders, as if they were shadows. He shot with precision that made older players stare in disbelief. He didn't play to impress, he played to survive, to prove that leaving home was not a mistake. When the trial ended, the sporting coaches gathered and whispered, "That boy, sign him immediately." There was no hesitation, no doubt. Cristiano Ronaldo was officially a sporting player. The loneliness that almost broke him, but the glory ended the moment he stepped into his new life. He was 12, alone in a giant city, living in a dormitory, filled with boys who did not know his name, his home, his pain. He missed his mother terribly. He missed the sea, the warmth of Madeira, the familiar comfort of his father's quiet presence. Nights were the hardest. He cried into his pillow, hiding his tears, so no one would think he was weak. He felt small, forgotten, lost. But every morning, despite the loneliness in his heart, he rose before dawn, and he ran to silence the pain, ran to feel alive, ran to remind himself why he was here. School, the battle he didn't expect. Football was his escape, but school became his battlefield. His accent was different. He spoke with the sound of Madeira, and some of the Lisbon boys mocked him for it. They teased him, imitated him, laughed behind his back. Cristiano tried to ignore them, but he was young, hurt, and alone. Sometimes he lashed out, sometimes he broke down, sometimes he questioned whether he truly belonged here. But deep inside, a fire was forming, the fire of someone who would one day stand in stadiums and silence millions with a single moment. The fire of a boy, turning his pain into power. Training, where the real transformation began. Sporting Lisbon was unlike anything Cristiano had seen. The drills were intense, the competition fierce, the expectations crushing. Boys trained as if their futures depended on each breath, because they did. And in this environment, Cristiano discovered something important. He wasn't the most talented, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the biggest, but he was the most determined. While others stopped, he continued. While others rested, he pushed harder. While others complained, he stayed silent and focused. The coaches didn't just see a gifted child, they saw a machine in the making. His speed became lethal, his dribbling unpredictable, his discipline unmatched. Every training session was a promise he made to himself: "I will become the best." The moment that nearly ended his dream, at 14, Cristiano's intensity grew so fierce that some at the academy worried. He pushed himself beyond physical limits. He demanded perfection from his body. A perfection his young frame struggled to deliver. And one day in the classroom, frustrated by another student's mockery, Cristiano snapped. He threw a chair. He shouted. He reached a breaking point. The school threatened expulsion. The academy questioned his emotional control. It was a moment that could have destroyed everything. But one coach stepped in, a coach who saw not a troubled boy, but a passionate heart burning too brightly. For such a small world, he told Sporting, "Let him stay, this boy is special. He needs guidance, not punishment." And that decision kept the dream alive, the diagnosis that changed his future. Then came another trial, one the world rarely talks about. Cristiano began feeling his heart race at unnatural speeds during training. Tests were run, doctors examined him, and the verdict was terrifying. He had a heart condition. If untreated, football, the love of his life, the soul of his existence, would be impossible. He was 12 when he left home, 14 when he nearly lost himself, 15 when he almost lost everything. But Sporting Lisbon believed in him. They arranged a surgery, a delicate procedure, that would decide whether his dream lived or died. Cristiano went into the operation with fear in his eyes and fire in his heart. The surgery succeeded, and he returned to training sooner than anyone expected. He was unstoppable. He was reborn. The rapid rise through the ranks. Sporting Lisbon had multiple youth levels, each one a higher mountain than the last. Most players took years to climb from one to the other. Cristiano climbed them in months. He moved so fast through the system that coaches began to say, "This boy, he is not growing, he is ascending." By 16, he was training with Sporting's first team, men twice his age, professionals with years of experience. Some mocked him, some doubted him. Some tried to knock him down, but when he touched the ball, the field fell silent. He was no longer the lonely boy from Madeira. He was a rising force that even seasoned players could not ignore. The night the world took notice, then came the night that would shake football. a friendly match between Sporting Lisbon and Manchester United, Cristiano stepped onto the field, with the calm of a warrior, who had lived through storms far worse than anything a stadium could throw at him. And that night, he destroyed Manchester United, his dribbling, his runs, his speed, his confidence. He made world-class defenders look helpless. The Manchester United players returned to England stunned, telling Sir Alex Ferguson, "You must sign that boy." And Ferguson, a man who could see greatness a mile away, did not hesitate. His message was clear: bring him to Old Trafford. The doors of destiny swing open. Sporting Lisbon had shaped him, hardened him, refined him, broken him, rebuilt him, and now, the club he had admired from afar, the club that shaped legends, was ready to take him. Cristiano Ronaldo, the boy who cried alone in a Lisbon dormitory, was about to step onto the world stage. But he was not ready because of his talent, he was ready because of his pain. His hunger, his loneliness, his refusal to break. This chapter of his life was not the rise of a star, it was the forging of a warrior. There are moments in life when destiny doesn't whisper, it roars. For Cristiano, that roar came in the form of a signature, one that would take him from the training pitches of Lisbon to the grand stage of football's greatest empire, Manchester United. A place where legends were shaped, where dreams demanded sacrifice, and where a young boy from Madeira would begin becoming a man the world could not ignore. The arrival in England, a new world, a new battle. When Cristiano stepped off the plane in Manchester, the air felt colder, heavier, as if the city itself was testing him. The language was unfamiliar, the culture different, the football harder, the expectations enormous. He was only 18 years old, thin, shy, and still carrying the face of a boy. But Manchester United did not see him as a child, they saw him as the future, and Cristiano, even with nervousness in his chest, held one belief: I will prove that I deserve this. Meeting Sir Alex Ferguson, the mentor who changed everything. Sir Alex Ferguson was a towering presence, not just in the club, but in the world of football. He didn't just coach players, he forged them. He saw their flaws, their fears, their hidden strengths, and when he met Cristiano, he saw something rare, a burning ambition, too powerful for an ordinary path. He placed a hand on Cristiano's shoulder and said, "Here. You will not just play football, you will grow, you will become something greater." From that moment, Sir Alex became more than a manager, he became a father figure, a guide who would shape Cristiano's destiny, with both discipline and compassion. The first training session, shock to the system. Cristiano's first training session was a wake-up call. The intensity was brutal, the physicality overwhelming, the speed unimaginable. Players like Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Rio Ferdinand, these were titans, warriors of the Premier League, and Cristiano was their new teammate. They watched him closely. Some admired him, some doubted him, some tried to intimidate him. But Cristiano did not shrink. He attacked every drill, with the hunger of someone who had already survived storms far greater than criticism. He fell, he got back up, he was knocked down, he rose again. By the end of the session, the players exchanged looks. This kid, he's serious. The debut that electrified England. Cristiano made his debut on a warm August afternoon. He came onto the pitch, with his jersey hanging loosely over his thin frame. And then, he unleashed magic: stepovers, runs down the flank, explosive pace, fearless confidence. Old Trafford, the theater of dreams, rose to its feet. Fans who did not even know his name were chanting, screaming, falling in love with the raw electricity he brought. He didn't score that day. He didn't need to. He had announced himself to England. A new star had arrived. The struggles, learning the English game. But the road was not always smooth. The Premier League was ruthless. Defenders targeted him, pushed him, kicked him, tried to break his spirit. Some mocked him for his tricks, some laughed when he fell, some whispered that he would never succeed in such a physical league. And Cristiano felt the pressure growing. Matches where he struggled, nights where doubt crept in, moments where frustration shook him. But every time he stumbled, Sir Alex was there. Use your talent with purpose, he told him. Don't just entertain, destroy. Cristiano listened, learned, transformed. The boy from Madeira was becoming sharper, stronger, smarter. He was evolving. The gym, where the legend's body was forged, while others went home after training, Cristiano stayed behind. He lifted weights, ran sprints, did hundreds of exercises. He trained before training, he trained after training, he trained when no one else was watching. His body changed, muscles forming, speed increasing, power rising. He transformed himself into the perfect athlete, not through gifts, but through obsession. The turning point. From talent to weapon. There was a night when Manchester United played Arsenal, a rival that demanded everything. Cristiano ran circles around defenders, created chances, fought for every ball, as if his soul depended on it. After the match, Sir Alex looked at him and said, "Now you are ready." From that moment, Cristiano wasn't just a good player, he was a weapon, a threat, a nightmare for defenders. A star rising so fast that the world began to look up. The 2006 World Cup incident, a storm of hate. But then came the darkness. During the World Cup, after an incident involving his club teammate Wayne Rooney, English media turned against Cristiano. Headlines attacked him, fans booed him, people called him names he didn't deserve. He returned to England as the villain, but instead of breaking, he hardened. Sir Alex supported him, United players stood beside him. Cristiano trained harder than ever. The fire inside him blazed into something unstoppable, and what came next was one of the greatest seasons in Premier League history. The rise to global phenomenon, seasons where Cristiano defied logic, goals from impossible angles, free kicks like missiles, skills that left opponents frozen, speed that turned defenders to shadows. Manchester United became a force of nature, and Cristiano became the face of that storm. He won Trophy Premier League, Trophy FA Cup, Trophy League Cup, Trophy Champions League, Trophy Ballon d'Or, the first Ballon d'Or of his life, the golden crown that proved the world had finally recognized what he always knew. He was not just great, he was exceptional. Old Trafford's son, fans worshipped him, children copied him. Opponents feared him. He had become the heart of Manchester United, the son of Old Trafford. But legends are called to new battles, and Cristiano's destiny was growing too large for even Manchester's grand stage. There was a bigger calling, a greater empire, a dream he had whispered in his heart since childhood, Real Madrid. But that journey, that transformation, that rebirth, belongs to the next chapter. When I look back at Cristiano's life, there is a chapter that feels like a second birth, a rebirth not of the body, but of purpose, power, and identity. It begins the day he arrived in England. The sky over Manchester was heavy that afternoon, a cold gray blanket stretching endlessly above the city. But deep inside Cristiano, a storm much greater was unfolding. This was the beginning of his transformation, because Manchester United was not just a club, it was a world filled with giants, warriors, champions, a world where pressure did not come in waves, it came like a tidal storm, and Cristiano was just a thin, bright-eyed teenager, with a heart that beat too fast, and dreams that burned too fiercely. But every legend begins this way. High voltage. The first shock, training with the giants. On his very first day of training, he realized something. Here, talent was not enough. At Sporting Lisbon, he had been extraordinary. In Manchester United, he was simply another player. Giggs, Scholes, Keane, Neville, Van Nistelrooy, men who had fought in wars on the pitch, long before Cristiano ever stepped into this world. Men who knew victory and defeat, not as stories, but as scars carved into their careers. And then there was Sir Alex Ferguson, the man who saw Cristiano's potential, long before Cristiano himself understood it. A man who would become a mentor, a father figure, a guardian of his destiny. But at that time, Cristiano was just trying not to drown. Training sessions were brutal. The speed of the ball was shocking. The physicality was like hitting a wall over and over again. He was knocked down hard, he was pushed aside, he was shouted at, he was criticized for every extra step, every unnecessary dribble, every moment of flair that did not end with impact. And yet, every night, he stayed behind. When the field emptied, and the stadium lights dimmed, one young shadow still danced on the grass. Cristiano, kicking, sprinting, practicing again and again, until his legs trembled, and sweat dripped from his chin like falling rain. Transformation does not begin in the spotlight, it begins in lonely silence. Fire the pain of becoming strong. Cristiano had a body built for speed, but not yet built for war. In the Premier League, defenders were hammers, and he was a nail waiting to be struck. Every match left him bruised, aching, exhausted. but instead of complaining, he made a decision that would change everything. He would build a new version of himself, a stronger version, a faster version, a version that opponents could not knock down. He trained with weights, until his muscles hardened like steel. He changed his diet, cutting out the softness of comfort food, and replacing it with the fuel of athletes. He studied footwork, balance, resistance, turning every weakness into a weapon, and slowly, the transformation began. His shoulders broadened, his legs strengthened, his stamina became superhuman, his confidence sharpened. The boy from Madeira was becoming a warrior. Soccer ball, the criticism that nearly broke him, but greatness never arrives without resistance. Fans mocked him for diving, opponents mocked him for showboating, pundits mocked him for being flashy, immature, and wasteful. There were moments, quiet moments, when he sat alone in his room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the world was right, wondering if maybe he was too young, too emotional, too fragile for this powerful league. He was far from home, his English was weak, his family was thousands of miles away. And the cold English rain felt like it pierced straight through his bones. But pain creates pressure, and pressure creates diamonds. Cristiano learned to shut out the noise. He learned to channel criticism into fire, into hunger, into ambition. Every insult became motivation, every doubt became fuel, and every time he stepped onto the pitch, he carried the weight of every voice that ever told him he wasn't good enough. Because he would prove them wrong. Glowing star rise of a new football machine. Over the next few years, something incredible happened. Cristiano's game changed. He became faster, not just in movement, but in thought. His decision-making sharpened, his dribbling became more lethal. His free kicks became art, his jumps became astonishing, as if he were defying gravity itself. Suddenly, the boy who once struggled was now the man every defender feared. He wasn't just playing football, he was evolving football, and Manchester United was becoming the ground on which a phenomenon was being built. Trophy, the birth of a legend. By the time he reached his peak at United, he was no longer a promising youngster. He was the future of the sport. Champions League, Premier League titles, FA Cups, Golden Boots, world recognition. And yet, inside his heart, he was still that boy from Madeira, who whispered to himself every night, I can be more, I can be better, I can become the best in the world. And soon, that belief would take him, beyond Manchester, beyond England, beyond expectations, straight into history. But that is the story of the next chapter. There are moments in life when you leave one world behind and step into another that dwarfs everything you have known. For Cristiano, that moment came when Manchester United had polished his talent, hardened his body, and tested his mind. He had conquered England, he had won trophies, he had silenced critics, he had become a global superstar. But Europe, and the world, still had chapters left to write, and those chapters awaited him in a city of history, glory, and expectation, Madrid, the home of Real Madrid. Here, the air is thick with ambition, the stadium roars with the weight of past legends. Every player who walks onto that grass is not just competing against opponents, they are competing against history itself, the transfer that shook the football world. In 2009, Real Madrid broke the world record to sign him, a transfer fee so large, it seemed unimaginable. And yet, for Cristiano, money was never the goal, trophies were never the goal, it was the challenge, the stage, the chance to become the best player in history. Madrid welcomed him with open arms, and a stadium full of expectations so heavy that even the strongest could crumble under it. But Cristiano, he was ready, because every drop of sweat, every scar from Lisbon, every bruise from Manchester, had prepared him for this moment. Adapting to a new league, La Liga was different from the Premier League. Faster? No. Technical? Yes. Relentless? Absolutely. Cristiano needed to adapt, quickly. He studied opponents, he watched defenders' habits, he trained to predict the impossible, he adjusted his body, his mind, and his approach to every game. Within months, he became unstoppable, a player who could score from anywhere, a player who could change matches alone, a player whose ambition knew no boundaries, breaking records. One by one, Cristiano did not just join Real Madrid, he transformed the club. Every record was within his reach, goals in a season, consecutive matches scored, hat-tricks in the Champions League, breaking legends' all-time scoring records. And he did it with a style uniquely his own, a combination of speed, precision, strength, and intelligence that defenders could not read, fans could not anticipate, and commentators could barely describe. Each record was not just a number, it was a testament to his obsession with perfection. The rivalry with Messi. No story of this era is complete without mentioning Lionel Messi, a rival in talent, a rival in spirit, a rival in ambition. The world watched as these two icons pushed each other to heights no one thought possible. Every goal Cristiano scored was measured against Messi's brilliance. Every match, every performance, was a chapter in a story of competition that elevated football itself. And Cristiano thrived under pressure. He was fueled by it, he was inspired by it. The Champions League domination, perhaps his greatest legacy at Real Madrid, is his domination of the Champions League. Titles stacked upon titles, goals that defied logic, moments that will live forever in football history. He led Real Madrid to multiple Champions League victories, sometimes carrying the team almost single-handedly, and every time, he did it not with arrogance, but with discipline, determination, and a hunger that only grew stronger with each challenge. The physical transformation. By now, Cristiano had become the ultimate athlete, a body sculpted to perfection, speed that left defenders helpless, jumps that seemed to defy gravity, a stamina that allowed him to play at the highest level for decades without slowing. But this perfection was not accidental, it was the result of obsession, years of training, dieting, conditioning, and mental focus that turned a boy from Madeira into the fittest footballer the world had ever seen. The global icon. Real Madrid didn't just make him a football legend, it made him a global icon. Millions of fans followed his every move. The media dissected every goal, every celebration, every decision, and yet, through it all, Cristiano remained focused on the next match, focused on the next goal, focused on being the best, because in his mind, there was no limit, there was only ambition, and ambition knows no borders. The legacy in Madrid. During his time at Real Madrid, Cristiano became the club's all-time top scorer, won 4 Champions League titles, claimed multiple Ballon d'Or awards, broke countless records, each one a testament to his relentless pursuit of perfection. Madrid became his canvas, and he painted it with moments of genius that will be remembered forever. And yet, even at the height of his success, Cristiano never stopped evolving, because for him, there is no finish line, only progress. The emotional side, beyond the trophies and records. This was also a period of immense personal growth. He became a father, learning responsibility and love beyond football. He developed relationships with teammates, mentored younger players, and inspired millions around the world not just with skill, but with his work ethic and resilience. Real Madrid was more than a club, it was a laboratory of greatness, where the boy from Madeira fully became the man, destined to dominate football history. While clubs bring fame, national teams bring pride. For Cristiano Ronaldo, there is no greater honor than wearing the red and green of Portugal. It was more than a uniform, more than a badge, more than a stadium of fans. It was his country, his people, his family's hope, his childhood dreams made tangible. And so, alongside his club career, Cristiano's story with Portugal became one of heart, courage, and relentless determination. The first call-up. He was only 18 when Portugal first called him, a young boy, barely stepping into adulthood, suddenly tasked with representing an entire nation. The weight of the jersey felt enormous. The anthem played, and he felt it. A responsibility that no club match could ever replicate. Fans in the stands, millions at home, were watching every move, and Cristiano, he vowed to never let them down. The pain of early defeats. Early on, he learned a harsh truth. National football is different. Matches were not just games, they were battles. Pressure was magnified, expectations were crushing, and Portugal, despite talent, did not always win. There were tournaments where Ronaldo's brilliance was not enough, where heartbreak and defeat tested his spirit, moments where he cried quietly. After matches he felt he should have won. But even in these defeats, Cristiano's character grew. His hunger for victory became more than personal ambition, it became a promise to his country. The rise to captaincy. In 2008, Cristiano was named captain of Portugal. He was only 23, but leadership was already in his bones. He carried the hopes of a nation on his shoulders. Every decision on the field mattered. Every goal, every assist, every run, was a message to his teammates. Follow me. Believe in me. We can win. Being captain was not easy. It meant sacrificing personal glory for the success of the team. It meant taking responsibility for losses and being the first to celebrate victories. And Cristiano embraced it. Euro 2016. Triumph through adversity. Portugal had never won a major tournament. Yet in 2016, with Ronaldo as captain, everything changed. The road was tough, injuries threatened, opponents were fierce. And in the final against France, Ronaldo was forced to leave the field injured. Fans gasped. His team feared the worst. But Ronaldo did not despair. He inspired from the sidelines. His voice, his passion, his determination, even off the field, pushed Portugal to victory. And when the final whistle blew, Portugal had done the impossible. They were European champions. Ronaldo had achieved a lifelong dream, not just for himself, but for every child growing up in Madeira. Every family dreaming of hope, every nation believing in a hero. World Cup challenges. The World Cup presented another test. Ronaldo carried Portugal into the global arena, facing the world's toughest defenders. There were moments of glory, goals that stunned millions, records broken, historic performances. But there were also moments of heartbreak. Portugal sometimes fell short, and the pressure on Ronaldo was immense, yet he never faltered. He never gave excuses. He never stopped believing, because for Cristiano, football was never just a game, it was a responsibility, a promise, a legacy, the personal side of international glory. Through it all, Ronaldo remained deeply human. He celebrated with his teammates, he consoled his teammates in defeat, he connected with fans on and off the pitch. He became a symbol of pride, resilience, and unity, not just for Portugal, but for everyone who looked to him for inspiration. And even as the years went by, as trophies piled up at Real Madrid and later Juventus, his heart always returned to the red and green of the Portugal jersey. Breaking national records, Cristiano didn't just lead Portugal to glory, he broke records while doing so. Portugal's all-time top scorer, most appearances as captain, multiple international goal records. Each goal was a testament to his unwavering commitment to his nation, to the sacrifices he made, to the journey that began on the streets of Madeira, the leadership that defined a generation. Ronaldo's influence extended beyond the pitch. Young players looked up to him. Fans admired his discipline and work ethic. Portugal's football culture evolved around him, inspired by his resilience, his determination, his refusal to accept anything less than excellence. He became more than a player. He became a symbol of national pride, a champion in every sense. By 2021, Ronaldo had played in multiple Euros and World Cups, winning the hearts of millions and cementing his place as one of football's greatest international icons. He carried Portugal's hopes and dreams through decades of triumph and challenge, and every time he scored, he reminded the world, dreams are built from discipline, greatness is earned, not given. A boy from Madeira can inspire a nation. Portugal, the nation that had watched him grow, had witnessed the heart of a champion, one whose courage and determination would never fade. Every story must eventually face the question, what remains after the glory fades? What is left when the crowds go home? For Cristiano Ronaldo, the answer is simple: legacy. Because greatness is not only measured in trophies, goals, or records. It is measured in inspiration, impact, and the story left behind. And Cristiano has already written one of the greatest stories football has ever known. Breaking every record, Cristiano did not just break records, he redefined what records could mean. Over 800 career goals, scored for clubs and country, multiple Ballon d'Or awards, proving he was the best of his era. Champions League records, from goals in consecutive seasons to hat tricks that stunned the world. International achievements, becoming Portugal's all-time top scorer and record appearance maker. But these numbers tell only part of the story. They cannot capture the discipline, obsession, and relentless will that made them possible. Each record represents a boy from Madeira who never gave up, a man who refused limits, a legend who worked harder than anyone around him. The work ethic that defined him. Cristiano's secret has always been simple: relentless effort, early mornings, late nights, extra drills. Every practice, every sprint, every shot, perfected. He transformed himself into a physical marvel, a machine of skill and power, and yet, his obsession with perfection never diminished. Fans and critics alike have marveled not only at his talent, but at his unmatched work ethic. This is the essence of Cristiano Ronaldo: talent multiplied by discipline, multiplied by ambition, multiplied by obsession. Beyond football, the human side. But Cristiano is not only a player, he is a human being with heart, emotion, and empathy. He became a father, guiding his children with love, patience, and wisdom. He became a philanthropist, donating millions to children's hospitals, disaster relief, and humanitarian causes. He became an icon, showing the world that greatness can coexist with humility and responsibility. His story teaches us, you can chase your dreams fiercely, and still care deeply about others. Inspiring a generation, Cristiano has inspired millions worldwide, children in Madeira dreaming of football glory, young athletes learning the value of discipline, fans discovering the power of ambition and resilience. He is more than a player, he is a symbol of hope, a living example that limits exist only where we allow them to. His journey from humble beginnings to global superstardom proves that with dedication and belief, anything is possible. The mindset of a legend, what sets Cristiano apart, is not only his physical ability, but his mindset. He never stops, he never settles, he never believes he has achieved enough, even after hundreds of goals, decades of matches, and countless accolades. He wakes every day with the same drive, to be better than yesterday, to score more, to inspire more, to leave the world a little greater than I found it. That is the hallmark of a true legend. The awards and honors, his trophy cabinet is unparalleled, 5 Ballon d'Ors, 4 Champions League titles with Real Madrid, 3 Premier League titles with Manchester United, European Championship with Portugal, multiple domestic league trophies. Countless scoring and performance records, and yet, for Cristiano, awards are not the goal. They are byproducts of effort, sacrifice, and dedication. The legacy that will live forever. Cristiano Ronaldo's legacy is not confined to statistics. It lives in every young player who dreams bigger than their circumstances, every fan who believes in resilience, every family that sees hard work rewarded. He has proven that greatness is earned, that dreams are achievable, and that no matter where you come from, you can leave a mark on the world. Madeira, Lisbon, Manchester, Madrid, these are the stages of his journey. But the true legacy of Cristiano Ronaldo is in the hearts he has touched, the inspiration he has ignited, and the story he continues to write, a life of purpose and passion. Cristiano's life is a testament to discipline, turning talent into perfection, resilience, rising above every challenge, ambition, never being satisfied, leadership, inspiring others to reach higher, and above all, a reminder that the boy from Madeira who once ran barefoot through the streets has become one of the greatest athletes and human beings the world has ever seen. And so, our journey with Cristiano Ronaldo reaches its final step. From a small island in Madeira to the roaring stadiums of the world, his life became proof that no beginning is too small, and no dream is too big. He faced hardship, loss, doubt, and loneliness. But every challenge became fuel, every setback became a lesson, and every tear became strength. Cristiano didn't just play football, he changed it. He didn't just chase greatness, he defined it. Today, the world sees a legend. But we know the truth behind the legend, the boy who refused to break, and the man who refused to stop rising. And as we close this story, remember this, greatness isn't luck. Greatness is choice. Cristiano Ronaldo chose to rise, again and again, until the world had no choice but to remember his name. I am Lady Hazelthorn, and this was the story of a boy who turned his struggle into strength, and his dream into destiny. Good night, and keep chasing your dream.